Okay, hey everybody, I'm back with more critical thinking. Okay, now, as I like to start all of my critical thinking videos out, I think critical thinking is very good because it lets you know the true personality of some of the people you're hanging out with. Wouldn't you like to know how they think in certain situations? Talking about work and what you did or what you're going to do this summer. That's fun, it's exciting, but it actually is kind of boring very quickly because most people are going to do the same things or very similar. But for critical thinking, you have two sides, yes or no. But there are many reasons behind. So it's not the yes or no part that I'm interested in, it's why you made that specific decision. Why did you do that? That's what I like to know. This critical thinking topic here is a salesperson ethically obliged to reveal their product's core weakness? Now, whether you are a salesperson and you're selling, are you ethically obliged to tell the customers the good points and the bad points of that merchandise? And if you're not a salesperson, you do buy things, whether you're buying clothes, a car, a house, do you think the salesperson is ethically obliged to tell you the problems, the good and bad points about that product so that you could make a good decision on what you want? Well, I'm going to read this one and let's see what you think, okay? You are the salesperson, okay? So you sell new Chevrolets. A customer is deciding between a Chevy Cruze and a Mazda 3. Now, the Cruze and 3 don't really make a difference. They're just trying to decide, should I buy a Chevrolet or should I buy a Mazda? The customer tells you that reliability is the #1 criterion in choosing the car. So they don't care about the color, they don't care about the space, they don't care about anything. All they want to know is this car reliable? When I get in the car in the morning, will it start? Okay? And that's what they tell you. I hate getting into my car to go to work and then it won't start. Or the vulnerability of being on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck. And I'm sure a lot of people have been in that situation. Your car doesn't start or breaks down somewhere and you have to call a tow truck. No one likes to stand there on the side of the road, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night. The customer thinks the Chevy is more reliable than the Mazda. But you think the customer is wrong, but you're not sure. So you don't say anything, you're not sure. You're thinking of checking with Consumer Reports and letting the customer know what you find. But is that really your job, or is that the customer's job? Consumer Reports is printed all over the United States, and everyone really should know about it and know how to use it and how to get it. So therefore, is it the salesperson's job to consult Consumer Reports and report back to you as a customer what they found? So an argument for checking and reporting, okay? If you do find that the Mazda is more reliable, you'll most likely save the customer much anxiety. The customer will buy the Mazda, which they'll feel more confident in. The car will, in fact, be less likely to break down. Of course, you can cite any benefits the Chevy has over the Mazda. But just because the Chevy will break down, just because they buy a Chevy, there's no guarantee that it will break down. There's a lot of reliable cars that don't break down, and a lot of cars that have been reviewed as reliable, they do break down. So a car, but then again, when you think about it, all cars break down. It's just a matter of when. No car lasts forever. So the problem with breaking down or the car not starting, well, that's going to happen. That's something you just can't avoid. Okay? Now, an argument for not checking and reporting. It's unrealistic to expect a salesperson to do research that will likely eliminate the possibility of a sale. Now, if anyone knows anything about American salespeople, they work on commission. Now, that if you check and you realize and you report back that the Mazda is more reliable, well, you just lost not only a big sale, but a commission, a possible commission. And also, you don't know the next customer that will come. So you're basically lowering your salary to help other people. And that's not really your job. That's not your responsibility. If that would be the case, the Chevy salesperson probably will sell few cars. And that's very true. Because if another customer comes and they're trying to decide between a Chevrolet and a Ford, but the Ford wins or Ford beats Chevrolet on certain points, you're turning customers away. And that will both cut the dealer's income and result in the salesperson getting fired. Well, if you're the salesperson, your boss is probably sitting in the office looking out the window and thinking, oh wow, that customer has come back. And then they're wondering, why did that customer not buy a car? Because the customers come back quite often. Because you're giving them paperwork to show that they shouldn't buy a Chevrolet, which means you should not be working for the Chevrolet company. That will both cut the dealer's income and being less likely to obtain another job to support the family. So you're cutting the dealer's income by recommending other cars. But if that happens too often, you'll most likely get fired because you're not making any sales. Your sales are much lower than they should be than in comparison with other salespeople. And most likely it will be very difficult for you to find another job when they find out the reason that your sales were low. Now, if in a job interview they are asked why they lost their job and says, because I keep doing research for prospective customers that reveals that my company's cars are inferior. They may never get hired for a sales job and have to train for a new career. Now, if that's you, do you really want to train for a new career? Is it ethical for a salesperson to not do such research for the customer, but rather listen to their needs and point out any relevant advantages the Chevy has over the Mazda? So even though this customer says their number one criterion is reliability, you could smooth that over by saying the Chevrolet is reliable. I had a Chevrolet; it was very reliable. But I've also had a Mazda, and they're also very reliable. So you could still say they're both reliable, but the Chevrolet has these features that the Mazda doesn't have, and you have all these other advantages for you if you choose the Chevrolet. So is that really your job? So what would you do in that situation? Me, personally, I would not consult Consumer Reports. I'd say, well, if I wouldn't even bring it up. If the customer knows about it, well, feel free to check. But I wouldn't do that work for them because I don't know what the Consumer Reports may say. So, and that's a chance I don't want to take. I would rather than buy the Chevrolet and see what happens, really, because no one can predict what's going to happen with a new car. You may think you do, but the same thing doesn't happen to all customers. Oh, my car broke down in 3 years. Well, there's no guarantee that's going to happen with all of the cars. So, and hey, I added a few more here. Would the customer's gender, attractiveness, or age affect your decision? So if it's man to man, well, you may be stronger. You say, well, sir, that's your job. You can check, but I'm going to give you all of these brochures to show you that you can compare and show you how good a Chevrolet is. If it's a beautiful woman that walks in, well, would you do the same thing? How about her age? If she's 22, 24, you know she probably doesn't have much money, she's probably in college or right out of college, or would that affect your decision? And same thing for a young man. He's probably right out of college, he's not very rich, he doesn't have a big salary, so would it affect your decision? Would your decision be different if the salesperson were pitching for donations, for a charity, even though you suspect a competing charity does more good with the money? So nowadays, a lot of charities are kind of going towards some of these companies and asking them, could you please collect money for us? So if they were pitching for donations, say, well, if you buy this Chevy, we will donate so much money to this charity, and we would ask if you would donate some money to a charity. Would that affect your decision? Me, yes. It would affect my decision. I said, well, I'm here to buy a car. If I want to donate money to a charity, well, I would go directly to that charity to donate the money. Right now, my main concern is to buy a new car. So, how about you? What would you do in this situation? And again, please share your comments in the comment section below. And I really do hope you hit the subscribe button, because I have a lot of these critical thinking stories to read to you, to find out how you think. And it would also be interesting to know if men and women on this subject think the same or differently, and how differently. Okay? Now, also, share your reasons. So if you decide to check Consumer Reports, well, why did you make that decision? And if you decided not to check, well, why did you make that decision not to check? I've kind of shared with you already my decisions and what I would and would not do. So please share with me what you would or would not do. Okay? Well, there's another one, and I'm going to go ahead and post this one as well. I'll see you soon for the next Critical Thinking.